Hey there, everybody. How's it going? It is the NFL Picks Sprapp. The season has started, and we have some data, and I've been doing a ton of work on the file, and I would like to tell you about what has happened over the last couple of days and where we are. And if you're interested in subscribing for the season, take a look at the links below because we have amazing things happen. So let's talk about the games that happened in week one. We don't really pay much attention to it because we didn't have any stats in here other than last year. We didn't have any current season stats, obviously, because it was week one. So we ended up going about 7-6 so far, and then we've got 2 games tonight, and there was a tie. There's a tie between the Steelers and the Browns. I don't think I have to go and put my lose an appendage to a crocodile because I said that if Pittsburgh lost to Cleveland, I was going to jump in with the crocodiles at the beach. They didn't lose, so technically I think I get to keep my limbs, but we'll find out. So we're 7-6 right now, and there's 2 games to go, and the tie, I don't know what to do with that. Let's not even talk about that right now. But we'll go and we'll talk about the other games tonight and also take a look at our percentages, as you can see from last year, how we don't pay much attention to anything in the first few weeks because you don't have any data, at least until week 5, really. 4 or 5 or 6 even. All right, so we're at 54% right now. We've got some games to go, and who really cares? So when we talk about what I've done to make this even better than last year, I'm looking at more than just the subtotal of team stats. I'm going to be also looking at player contributions so that we can really work on seeing who's in the lineup and what their value is to the team. So I'm going to show you a ton of work that I've done on that part of the front because that's really what the core of this file is going to be about, and it's going to help us with our matchups. So as for right now, you can see that tonight's games we're looking at, it likes Detroit off of last year's stats, and it likes the Rams. That's pretty obvious. That agrees with Vegas, but we're going to see how all the players came. One thing I noticed was, that tough game between Cleveland and Pittsburgh. Cleveland picked up Jarvis Landry. They picked up Josh Gordon, I think. They picked up some people, and I can see why they played better. Had I known that roster was filled with those guys, I would have assumed that they would. Here, take a look at this. This is one of the roster sheets, and it's build up that I'm working on to show you kind of the comparison because I really wanted to look at that game, at that Cleveland-Pittsburgh game, and I wanted to find out what happened. So I've started to import all the stats for all the players by position, and that's what this big sheet is with all the player data. We've got kickers, we've got defensive, 3 sets of defensive position players, then some passing players. Here's your quarterbacks, anybody else who did any passing throughout the game. Then we've got rushing, and we've got receiving, and I don't really have a lot of cross-pollination going on between players that, like a quarterback that might also rush for yards, or a wide receiver who might rush for yards, or a running back who's catching. It's not really bleeding together, so I need to work on that. But we have done is found the source for the stats with NFL.com. They provide everything you need, and we're starting to apply contribution percentages based on these categories. You can see Ryan Fitzpatrick apparently had the game of a lifetime in that Tampa Bay Saints game, put up a billion points, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions, a ton of yards. You can see that his ranking is above Drew Brees', which is interesting because that's an independent assessment on the game. It doesn't look at the game's total score. There's no win-loss there under QB stats. So for him to score better than Drew Brees, it means he played better than Drew Brees, and that means that the contribution score, the C score, as I'm calling it, is working properly. So if you look at the running backs, hey, Chris Thompson, I did not watch the Redskins game. I'm a Skins fan. That's my hometown. I got to find out what happened. There's only 5 attempts there, but 65 yards, 13 yards a carry. Apparently, that's a great game for him. And if he's not hurt, I'm assuming he's still healthy. I have no idea. I don't want to throw that out there. But if he's going to come back next week, you can see he's a running back that was clearly undervalued, and that's a good outing for him. We've done the same thing with wide receiver percentages as well. I'm working on all this stuff as it goes into the file, and as we work on this, as you can see, I haven't done the defenseman yet. It takes a lot of work. I'm working hard here. Put in a few hours, but we need some more hours on this. It's not done yet. That's why I'm not releasing it yet. But you will definitely be ready before week 2 here. We're going to have composite scores, and we're going to be predicting what we think the score totals are going to be by comparing the offenses and the defenses and the player lineups and who's in. So this is all coming together quite nicely. I like the way the setup is looking. And we're going to do, as soon as we get the stats in there and start looking at the first few weeks, we can then apply sort of what's called more of a regressive algorithm by looking at the past and see what contribution percentages or what different weights of all those different categories we were showing on the player sheets, player stats sheet. What distribution of those percentages makes the most sense? You know, do we care a lot about TDs? Do we care a lot about average yards per carry? Do we care a lot about receiving completion percentages? All kinds of different things that are going to comprise a score, and we're going to find out what yields the highest C score, which ends up yielding the best determinant of who ends up winning a game or playing well. And all that coming together is looking quite nice. You can see in the game here, look at Landry, look at Gordon, look at Nick Chubb. I don't know who that guy is. He's no Chubb because he's up there on that list. And what I'm showing in this player pivot sheet is this is how we're going to end up figuring out scores of games and potential comparisons of different lineups and where everyone's going to go. Because when you flip these things around, you can sort of look at it by position or by player and then really have a comparison by position and by player and by team. So I don't have kicking points in there. That's why it's zeros for all the kickers. I got to fix that. But you can see that Ben Roethlisberger outplayed Tyrod Taylor, according to our scoring there, slightly. We can figure out why by looking at the contribution percentages. But your running back situation, Cleveland overpowered Pittsburgh's running, comparatively. And tight end wise, Pittsburgh is a little better. Wide receiving wise, Pittsburgh a little better because they got Antonio Brown. But the point is we're going to be able to run these comparisons. I'm going to put the offense up against the defenses of the two teams to make that comparison. Look at your linebackers. Look at your defensive linemen, and throw all these things together to really make the matchup and the scoring predictions more reliable and make them make sense. So anyway, it's coming together nicely. I wanted to put an update for everyone so that we could show where we are going and what is going to be released for week 2. You're going to have a whole set of picks in week 2 that are going to be based off of our team stats, which is only going to have 1 week of team stats, because we're entering week 2 here. And it's also going to have, in addition to team stats, it's going to have the player stat buildup. And you can see how you add players and then throw people into this pivot. That's what I'm doing now. Is I'm saying, well, if you wanted to see not just the Pittsburgh and Cleveland game, but you wanted to see the quarterbacks from other games, or, we're going to fill out a full roster lineup for next week and pit those teams together in here, you can just type in the team name, and I'm going to be laying this out for everyone, obviously, in the file, but you type in the team name, you put the position, and there's different formulas that are related to each position. So the formulas pull the correct person in correct area. So that's how you see that Fitzpatrick and Breeze have points. And then you can go over to that pivot, which is the report showing our comparisons, and then we mess around with all those different column labels and row labels, as they are called in the pivot in green there, and start to do comparisons and see that really, look at the disparity in offense between those two teams and the quality of the quarterback game. So it also says something about the defense of those two teams, New Orleans and Tampa Bay. So anyway, really awesome stuff, and there will be more to come. If you want to subscribe, go ahead and do it. There will be picks coming up, and let's see if we can win a couple games tonight. Go Rams, go Detroit. And may all of your picks be winning, as always.